We are looking at more arm locks with the Hanbo.
This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed.
I've mentioned already sometimes when we looked at different types of arm locks that an arm lock in fact comes in 4 flavors. This should describe that each arm lock has 4 different ways of executing it, and that depends on your situation, mostly how your opponent or training partner reacts onto your initial try to get into the lock, but it could also be seen as a reaction when a second attacker is coming in, how I can change the arm lock into something useful then. The exact differences differ a bit arm lock by arm lock, but in general, if we have a chicken wing type arm lock, so arm locks that usually bring your opponent to the front, then we have 4 versions that I can simply address to as a small version, a backward pull motion, a large version, and a transport version. These are just describers. You can also see that in a kind of a geometric arrangement depending where you put the arm of the opponent in relation to yourself and how you position yourself in relation to the opponent. This is now very esoteric. We will simply go through a first example. We will explore here how this looks like for the circle 1 type of arm lock. We had seen when we originally introduced these that we have some of these different versions, and so this is not entirely new, but now it's emphasized. The small version of this arm lock is very simple. After deflecting the arm and stabbing the opponent, we put the stick around his arm. More precisely, we put the stick into the elbow joint, and then we push the stick and at the same time pull it towards ourselves, either placing the stick on the left shoulder, or if you prefer, you can also put it on the right shoulder. To reach this position, it's necessary to step in with the left foot, so we have a deep control of the opponent. In theory, we could now go to the ground, or we could make a hip type of throw. In any case, we are controlling the opponent very firmly. This is the small version of this arm lock. If we want to enter this arm lock and the opponent struggles against it, for example by leaning backward or by curling the arm or several different reactions that we could imagine, it can be tricky to reach this position. Especially when the opponent doesn't want to get leaned forward, he will use his back muscles and try to lean backward. And instead of acting against that, we can make use of this and make a version of this arm lock that brings the opponent to the back. For this, our left hand or offhand, depending how you want to call that, grabs the wrist of the right arm of the opponent, and our stick is used against the back and against the elbow of the opponent. We can control the foot of the opponent with our own foot. We have seen this technique already when we looked at small chains of arm locks. This is, of course, koshi-ori, a very traditional Hanbo technique. It uses the same entrance, the same basic principles as the other versions of this arm lock, but it doesn't look like a chicken wing. It's derived basically from a chicken wing, and it also gives us already a idea how this relative positioning works. For the small arm lock, we basically place the arm of the opponent at our lower right region. Now, with the koshi-ori, we are placing the arm of the opponent closer to our lower left region. This is not a perfect describer, but it gives us a rough idea. If we now move up to the upper left region, we come to what I usually call the big version of this arm locks. We still hold the wrist of the opponent, but we have now a forward pushing motion. This version of the arm lock is much more painful than the small version for the shoulder. The shoulder is much further rotated, but it's not so easy to enter this position. It's often necessary to first open the opponent, and for that we can, for example, use the koshi-ori. So the koshi-ori, the backwards one, can open, can make the arm of the opponent less tensed, and then we can easily enter this type of arm lock. The fourth one is then logically in the upper right region, and this can be hard to enter. In fact, you have to do that careful when training. You might damage the shoulder of your training partner. We basically turn around, look into the other direction, and also turn our stick around. By this, we very, very tightly lock the forearm of our opponent between the stick, our forearm, and our body. I also like to pull at the tip of the Hanbo, and even for security reasons, you can interlock the tip with your leg. That gives you a very, very tight security and a high tension at the shoulder. So really, really be careful. If you now really want to transport the person, I usually tell the person to put the other hand also onto the back. It helps to simply tap on the back that the other person knows where to put the hand. Then you grab it, then you have a really, really high tension, and now you can work forward. Your opponent will have to walk backwards. I know that transporting grips like that are used by people working in jail to transport people that are rioting. So this seems to be very effective. For training reasons, really, really careful. There's a lot of tension in here. As you've seen already in the video sequences here, you can train these 4 different versions of the lock as a kind of a training chain. This helps you to understand the different versions of this one, and it makes it easy to remember them and to reconstruct them if you forget individual steps. Usually, if you really want to apply that in free flow, you cannot always decide in which version you will end up, but it partly depends on the reaction of your opponent. As I said, if the opponent is pulling the arm in, you might more easily end up in koshi-ori than in the small version of the arm lock. On the other hand, if you do koshi-ori, you can use that to enter the big version of the arm lock, or even from there continue into the transport version. There are 4 basic chicken wing type arm locks, and they all have a small version, a backward pull version, a big version, and a transport version. We will go through all of these options. We will also see that the other basic 4 types of arm locks, the figure 4 arm locks that usually bring the opponent backwards instead of forwards, have a bit differing 4 base types, but they also refer to these 4 different positions on the body. It will take some time to get into this. This is just a first presentation of these types of flavors, as I like to call them, and we will go more deeply into these with additional videos. With this, I have to say, we hope we could inspire you and hope to see you around next time.